Rio Arriba County, New Mexico, winter 2013. While neighbors covered their flower beds with thin tarps, reinforced their doors against the wind, and complained about the price of water, a man dug deep holes in his yard. Alone. Always at the same time. He never explained. In the second week, old tires began to appear, buried in circles deep enough to disappear from the sight of passers-by. Are you going to bury trash now? Or he's digging his own grave. This will ruin the soil, you'll see. He didn't answer. He just kept going. 3 rows, then 5, then 11. The jokes dwindled when the cold weather suddenly arrived. On the third day of continuous frost, part of the flower beds froze completely. Dead roots, black, withered leaves. The village, accustomed to drought, had seen frost for the first time in decades. But in that strange backyard, the leaves were still green. And for the first time, nobody asked, why? They asked, how? In that village surrounded by arid mountains, the inhabitants learned 2 rules early on: to plant the way they had always planted, and not to draw attention to themselves. The houses were low, made of adobe or worn wood, surrounded by wire. The yards always the same: corn, beans, peppers. When it was good, there was a little left over to sell at the Saturday market. When it wasn't, there was silence. Mrs. Helen always watered the plants at 6 in the morning with a small bucket. Eli, the neighbor across the street, was cleaning the sprouts with a damp cloth. Mr. Howard, the oldest man on the street, used to say that planting well meant doing things the way they've always been done. It was in this world that Sam Morales began to change the ground beneath his feet. He didn't speak to anyone. He didn't ask for an opinion. He dug slowly in the same spot, every afternoon after returning from collecting recyclables. He used the same bent shovel, his dirty cap, his hands always covered in grease. At first they thought he was going to build a cistern. Then they said it was a septic tank. Then tires started appearing. Old, worn out, of various sizes. He nested them inside each other and buried them until they almost disappeared. Mrs. Helen commented ironically, "If you plant potatoes there, they'll grow smelling like rubber. That is high." Mr. Howard simply shook his head. At the fair, the comments grew. "They say he's burying things in the backyard, or maybe he's completely lost it. The woman left, right? That explains a lot." Sam was listening, but he didn't stop. Until one morning, he woke up to find a banner tied to his gate. "This isn't a garbage dump." He didn't comment. He just removed the banner, put it inside a tire, and continued digging. The tires formed lines, then curves, then a pattern that no one could decipher. One day, while watering one of the tires with a gallon of water, Donna Helen's grandson stopped on the other side of the fence. "Is this a vegetable garden?" Sam did not respond, but he pulled a live chard cutting from the ground, even after the coldest night of the month. The boy's eyes widened. "Mrs. Helen pulled her grandson by the arm. "Come here, boy. Don't mix with us." Everyone knew Sam, but only by sight. Widowed early in life. Silent. He would respond with a nod. He never left. He never complained. It was like an old stone that nobody notices, until they trip over it. But now it was the center of attention. The first seedling died on the second day. Sam knelt silently before the tire. The ground there was colder, too wet. He picked it up with his fingertips. He felt the weight. I said nothing. The next day he removed the top layer, adjusted the tire, and made punctures. In the afternoon he tried another change. This time the cilantro lasted 4 days. It wasn't much, but it was a sign. It wasn't just the tire. It was the shape, the depth, the compaction. Sam started testing variations. Some tires were exposed, others almost invisible. At night, he used a small flashlight and watched how the water moved on the land. He silently corrected his mistakes. Meanwhile, the local radio station was warning about cold air coming from the north, but nobody there took it seriously. It never snowed there. In the third week, Sam assembled 3 stacked tires, filled with stones, black soil, and sawdust. He covered them with a thin tarp. Eli passed by. "Is this an oven or a tomb?" Sam simply lowered the tarp more carefully. But the neighbors noticed something else. He no longer bought vegetables at the market. Even in the cold, something green grew there. Mrs. Helen commented, "I saw scallions. I'm sure of it." Eli replied, "That's lucky. Everything will freeze next week." But it didn't freeze. On the coldest night of February, with ice in his bucket of water, Sam harvested 4 bunches of Swiss chard. No one commented, but everyone looked. In the 5th week, he built a tunnel out of tires. He covered it with tarpaulin and weighed it down with stones. Eli shouted from the gate, "Sam, are you waiting for the end of the world?" This time Sam looked, just trying to plant without losing everything. Eli laughed, but at night he returned and stood there staring in silence. In the 6th week, the radio was repeatedly issuing warnings of prolonged cold weather. Prepare the animals. It will last. It could be the whole month. Nobody believed it, but Sam kept up the pace. He tended to the tunnels, adjusted tarpaulins, wiped away the dew. He observed. He took notes. He corrected. The village's crops were beginning to die, but in Sam's backyard there was greenery. Not much, but there was some. On Monday, Donna Helen noticed that even the lemon tree was acting strangely, and Sam picked spinach. That's when Mr. Howard appeared at the gate. "I just wanted to see how things are there." Sam opened it. The old man scooped up the earth with his hands. It was damp, soft, warm. "And all this with an old tire?" Sam nodded. "That one failed," he pointed. "I buried it too deep. The root can't breathe." Mr. Howard left in silence. The following morning, 2 tires were discreetly left at the gate. No ticket, but he understood. Later, 4 more arrived. Then 12. Mrs. Helen rode past on her bicycle, pretending not to see. Eli watched silently from the balcony. Sam didn't smile. He didn't say thank you. He just cleaned the tires and stacked them. On the night of the 42nd, the wind changed. Sam noticed it from the smoke in his breath. Something was blowing from the south, dry and angry. The main tarp had come loose. The plants were still standing, but the ground was beginning to harden. He tried stones, ropes, wires. Nothing held it. He went to get a plank, an old grate. His hands were trembling. The wind was tearing at him. Then he heard, "Uncle Sam?" It was Liam, Donna Helen's grandson. "My grandma fell. In the chicken coop. She's on the ground. Shaking. She can't get up." Sam left everything. He ran. Inside the house, the door was open. The smell of damp firewood lingered, and the stove was off. She was on the floor, eyes open, mouth trembling. Too cold. "Blanket, Liam. Quick." Sam tricked the old woman, but he knew it wasn't enough. He picked her up in his arms. He carried her to his house. The back room, the warmest part. Blankets, tarps, makeshift thermos bottles. Liam looked at it for the first time. Sam didn't explain. He just heated the water and spread the bottles around the bed. Donna Helen closed her eyes, trembling. Liam whispered, "It's hot in here." Sam nodded. But inside, she felt the risk. He went back to the backyard. The tarp had flown off. The plants were falling. It was the kind of mistake that cost weeks. His first reaction was impulsive. He wanted to run, hold everything back, stop it. But it stopped. He breathed. He did as he always did. He observed. Sure. Here's the sequel. Fully adapted to the American context of New Mexico, keeping the emotional heart intact and the defined narrative style. He noticed the wind was coming in from below. Covering it wasn't enough. He had to redirect it. He stacked tires around a curve. He used old planks as a barrier against the wind. The tarp's tie-down point was changed, remade, and he redid it. 3 hours later, the wind was still blowing strongly, but it was no longer flooding the area. Back in the room, he found Liam asleep, sitting up, still holding his grandmother's hand. Donna Helen breathed more deeply. The color had returned to her face. Sam didn't say anything. He just stood there for a while, watching the vapor from his breath slowly escape into the cold air. The next morning, Eli appeared at the gate. I was restless. She seemed to be searching for the courage to speak. "Helen, I heard she wasn't feeling well." Sam nodded. Eli lowered his eyes. "I was the one who tied that banner to your gate." Silence. "I just wanted to say that, if you need help with the tires, I have some tools at home." Sam thought about replying, but he didn't answer. He just opened the gate, and he went back to the backyard. The frost from the previous night had left its mark, but the tires were still firm. Perfect. Because now, what once seemed merely unusual has turned into a crisis. The cold weather hasn't gone away. It went deeper. The minimum temperatures were already below zero. The ground, which used to harden at night, now appeared white in the morning, and a new word began to circulate among the oldest people in the village. His name. That wasn't common there. Some said they had never seen it before. Others, yes, but only once, a long time ago. Nobody knew what to do. I don't even know how to react. At the fair, half of the stalls didn't even open. Small farmers began to lose everything, not just leaves, but roots. The fruit dried out. The earth contracted. Eli gave up on the flower beds. Mr. Howard covered everything with black tarp. Donna Helen was still recovering, but now she was sleeping under 3 blankets, inside Sam's house. In the entire village, the only place where there was still greenery was that strange backyard. And even so, Sam didn't celebrate. I knew the worst was yet to come. The ground around the flower beds began to crack from the inside, even under the tires. Water vapor was escaping. The moisture, which had previously been so carefully maintained, was beginning to disappear. The structure held up, but for the first time that wasn't enough. That's when Sam did something that nobody expected. On day 51, he removed all the tires from the center circle. He dug it up. He dug deeper. It exposed the roots. He caused what appeared to be destruction, but it was preparation. He covered the ground with dry leaves, plastic bottles filled with hot water, and a double layer of tarpaulin on top. Then he put the tires back on. He reorganized everything. The neighborhood thought he had given up. Even he couldn't take it